So we're talking. We're obviously we're talking mostly about live stuff today. I'm gonna run. So the setup for us now is obviously Alex on a drum kit. John is on a keyboard and a guitar, and also like a synthesizer. But the keyboard's a MIDI keyboard, and so I'm essentially the grandmaster. I'm kind of all the signals are running into me. I'm taking MIDI signals in and processing them. I'm taking guitar signals. I'm taking Alex's vocals and processing them. So I thought I'd run you through how I process these signals and change them from track to track because they're changing quite a lot. So what I try and do is keep all of the loops and things that I play down to 8 tracks because I'm using an APC controller. And that way there's no kind of confusing area where you have to scroll to the right. So it's all just kind of running down. And I've got all of these different scenes. I've got everything in one set. But what I kind of mostly wanted to talk about was how, because when we're cycling through the set, we've got all these different vocal effects and synth sounds which are being triggered. And I used to have to go through to each track and go, all right, I'm going to turn on, the reverb setting for this song, turn off that. And so how I've actually rigged it up is now that I have these things called dummy clips, which allow me to select different chains inside a drum rack, which mean that when I start the song, we've got a whole new chain of vocal effects on Alex's vocals, and I don't have to think about it. It's just kind of there, and I can't forget it. So one thing is I've got this vocal input here. I'll look at the vocals first. So we've got the vocal input, and essentially we just have the monitor turned on. So the monitor here is set to in, so we can't actually hear anything on the channel. I've got it here, and we can see it coming through when I tap the mic. And then that is running, you can see, to the dummy track. Essentially, the dummy track is also set to on monitor in as well. So the audio is going from the vocal input into the dummy track. And then I've got these things called dummy clips in here, which essentially are just blank audio clips. You can see it's completely silent there. And essentially what these allow me to do is put automation information on this live signal which is being routed through it. So for example, I could use this in order to perform some sort of live automation on Alex's vocal if I wanted to, but I'm not doing that. I'm just selecting multiple different chains essentially. So how this works is I have this audio effects rack, and the audio effects rack has these 4 different chains in it. So at the moment, if I click this song Another, it's going to, let's ignore that, it's going to select this slap chain. And then I can come down, and then I go to the second track, and we don't have any simple delay on it. So I just click. And you can see it's selecting a chain which doesn't have anything on it. So this chain selector area isn't actually set to allow any signal through. So the signal turns off, so the sound guy doesn't have to turn down the vocal, which is bleeding sound into the fallback mix and causing feedback problems and all sorts of things. And
it also stops me from talking to the audience, which George doesn't like.
Fuck, yeah. And then we've got all these different chains. So I come to this track here, and we actually change the vocal sound midway through the tune. So this one has the following. Whoa, it's got that sound on it. Where is it? A really subtle kind of ping pong delay, which doesn't seem to even be that noticeable. And then we have a different sound for the verse. I mean, for the chorus. So it's more delayed. I guess. So this is really good. I'm getting confused.
Cut it out.
I'm getting confused. This is great because it means that I can cycle through all these different presets without actually have to do any work. But I'll just show you how to actually make this thing, in case it didn't work, this rack thing. So essentially, I'm just going to make a new audio track. And so, actually, I'll make a new MIDI track. Actually, I'll show you the how I rig it up for the MIDI which goes in, because that's a little bit more simple. So essentially for this first track, we have it off. But this second track, I want the MIDI signal to control a synthesizer that's got a sine wave. So it's this here, that one. And then I go here, second track, and then the MIDI's turned off, so in case the keyboard gets hit, the sound won't come through. And then we get to this track here, I play it, and it'll wait, and then it'll come in. And we've got a Wurlitzer kind of sound. So I've got two synthesizers that are stacked on top of each other, but we're using different chains to isolate when they're triggered. So I'll show you how I do that. It's quite simple. And I'll do it just here with different instruments. So I'll take this ambient and evolving. It's not very good, is it? So we've got that there. And I'm going to group this. So I'm going to turn it into a rack so I can stack more things on top of this. So it's not going to change the sound anyway. Then I've got that on a chain. I'm going to make another chain now. And I'm going to call this... I won't call it anything yet. I'm going to get another sound. So we've got those two sounds triggering simultaneously, which isn't what I want. So I want to isolate them onto different chains. And I'll see if I can remember how to do this. So you come to this chain selector here, and you can see that I've got these two blue things and an orange thing on top of it. The orange line there is telling me what chain I'm selected on at the moment, and the blue lines are telling me what chains, what part of this chain they are at. I'm not using the right terminology, but you'll work it out. So I can actually move the blue part over to the right. So now I've got the fine pulse on chain number 1, and I've got the ambient feel on chain 0. So now when I play this, we're only hearing the fine pulse. The MIDI signal is only being sent to one of the synthesizers. So what I could do now is I could move this chain across, like so. Whoa. And now I'll just be playing that sound. So you can make a kind of performance patch out of this by assigning this thing to the macros. You can go like that, and then this macro will select one of the chains if you want to. That can be how you use it for performance. But what I do is just simply make a blank MIDI clip, and then I come here to the instrument rack and I say chain selector. And I want the first one, so say this one, I want this one to be the, I can't remember what it's called now, it's called ambient, amb. And I want the next one to be fine. And I've got to change the chain selection on this one to be number 2. So I just move that there. And now we've got that playing that, and that playing that. And it's going to be all in time. When I introduce the new synthesizer, it's going to be perfectly in time with the rest of the track. So that's chain selection. Sorry for boring the brains out of you with that.
I've never even seen that happen myself. I'm normally at the back just doing a gigantic drum solo, like that, spinning my sticks.
But it is. I mean, it's kind of technical. It sounds. It actually helps a lot in a live set because, say for example, when I press this button to start a song, I'm not only changing the tempo of the track, launching a clip, I'm changing also what guitar setting sound John's guitar is playing when it goes through my computer. I'm also changing the synth preset, and it's also changing the vocal preset. And you know, I can set it up so it turns on the metronome and do all these sorts of great things, which is great, especially if you have poor memory like me. I used to actually have a notebook, which is really lame, which would have all these notes on what I needed to do before I triggered each song. So this has kind of made it a little bit easier for me, which is good.
Yeah, it's the more we played and the bigger audiences we were playing to, you know, in the big rooms, and we kind of wanted to find a way to change the set dynamically and keep it interesting, and this is sort of streamlined that. Instead of having to have 4 different keyboards, now we can have John on 2 keyboards. with one of them just controlling different sounds per track. And George is free now to play instruments or to do it, whatever the song needs him to do, without having to worry about quickly changing settings or anything like that. And that's why we like using the software, because it's kind of streamlines what you, in terms of your performance, what instruments you're using and different settings and whatnot.